Kenny.
Hey, Johnny, what's going on?
Oh, nothing much. How you doing?
All right.
Let me dig in with you a little bit and find out a little bit more about what you're doing and what you're aspiring to. But first, about like who you are. So, you and I have talked, but I don't know that we've gotten down to the deepest parts. So I would just ask you, like, what are you passionate about, and what's the passion that kind of drove you to where you are today?
For me, like running a business is a sport, and I'm the athlete. Like I like it.
Yeah,
It's a pain in the ass for sure sometimes, but like there's also that thing that keeps me coming back to it.
yeah,
So, how I got into advertising, I was working at Yahoo on their ad tech. I
yeah,
got I got to know a publisher who just needed something really goofy. He wanted to basically he had an advertiser who was going to cancel, which happens. And that advertiser was like, hey, I'm just posting my lunch specials to Facebook every day. I don't need to buy ads with you anymore, local newspaper.
yeah,
And the publisher told me, he's like, hey, is there any way you can build an ad that will automatically pull in this Facebook post into like a banner ad on the site? So you go to the redbankgreen.com, it would show the lunch special going on at this advertiser's thing that he just posted to Facebook, right?
yeah.
That's all there was to it. And, I was like, sure. And in a week, I put something together and I did that. Well, anyway, the advertiser liked it so much that to this day, 10 years later, that ad is still running on the publisher's website. And it's been like,
What?
yeah, it's been a $500 a month ad for 10 years.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it was kind of like, it got me thinking, and I was like, publishers can do cool shit like that,
Yes.
but they usually don't have like a provider to help them do that.
Yes.
So Broadstreet, in the most boring way of defining what it is an ad manager similar to Google Ad Manager. But in the more like the actual spirit of Broadstreet is let's help publishers do cool shit that's actually going to help them win an advertiser, right?
Yes.
And we offer some things off the shelf. We offer some really nice reporting, but it's kind of like the publishers that we serve all have relationships directly with their advertisers. And if you're going to sell anything to anybody, there's got to be something about you or what you're selling that makes you really special.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what we put it right on our front page of our website. Like, impress your advertiser. That's it.
Yeah.
We help publishers impress their advertisers.
Dude, I freaking love your mission.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh man, I love it, dude. That's so succinct. Jake is here too. It looks like he's me, but
Yeah.
it's Jake. He's on mute.
Hey, it's happening, Jake.
Jake, do you hear the clarity in that, bro?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it really kind of parallels the conversations we've been having.
Yes.
Kind of brilliant.
We're going to do some cool stuff together, man, because I really love the simplicity and the clarity of that.
Right? Yeah, definitely. It took us a while to actually articulate it like that, because a lot of times it's like, when you're running the business, you're kind of in the weeds.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell is it that we do? And then it was only like over time, it just kind of crystallized. It was like, this is what we do. We impress.
Yes.
So
yes. And I'm sure, if you lead out with that closes business, man, because it touches the emotion of the publisher.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I want to impress. Yes, I want to impress my advertisers. Help me impress. You can help me do that. Help me do that. And that's your origin story too. Your origin story was that.
Right. Exactly. And I didn't used to talk about the origin story, but then I realized, like, talk about hitting on something. Like, every publisher in the world has had like a cancellation. Right. Yeah. They know what that feels like. And to get an email from someone saying like, I want to cancel my contract, that's a killer. Right. And every business owner in the world knows that, even no matter how small they are. Sometimes they'll be like, well, they were small, it's not that big of a deal, but like still it hurts. Yeah. So yeah, I think that kind of like, hey, this was a happy ending to what had been a cancellation, kind of resonates a little bit.
So that's what sets you apart from your competitors, right? Because if you're competing on the basis of just being an ad manager, then you've got plenty of competitors. But but if you're competing in the realm of impressing advertisers, right, which is what you're trying to do, I would assume that's where you get head and shoulders above your competitors.
Right, exactly. Because we're the only ad manager that focuses on publishers who have to do that direct sales, like that direct relationship.
Yeah.
Everyone else is chasing programmatic and scale and all of that. And we've said, like, hey, we're okay working with a publisher who's only got 20,000 page views a month.
Yeah.
Because that publisher needs more than anybody else to impress. If you're going to get an advertiser to work with you at 20,000 page views a month, you better be able to deliver something because you don't have the traffic, right?
Yes. What would you say then is your superpower? And the superpower is the thing that you're doing personally, professionally, all the time, right? But the thing that gives you joy and execution. So what would that be?
I think my superpower is really that I find creative solutions to things. And I'm really good at that. I feel like I'm in like a therapist chair right now, so thank you for that. Math and science in school like never came super easy to me, but I was so fascinated with the idea of like making a computer do something and writing the code to do it that I was really willing to put the time and effort into becoming a software developer, which I actually became a pretty good software developer. But prior to what I used to do, I was always like a very creative person. Like I was always like building things. I was always trying to like compose music, draw stuff, design stuff. And it was like whatever I say to my team all the time, you know, that line, like Snoop Dogg says, like, I keep coming up with funky ass shit like every single day.
Yeah.
And when someone comes, like a publisher comes with a problem, it's like, I want to help solve that. And I feel like I bring a few things together, like the code, the creativity to help them get that done.
Yes.
And I think like kind of like what you were saying in the beginning of the call, because I've done that with so many publishers, I've become like somebody that like people will go to and they'll ask questions like, hey, do you know, and they'll ask me the same thing. Like, do you know any CRMs that are like, you know, good, like, you know, that'll connect with so-and-so? Do you know of any, like, I think you name it, I've probably been asked about it.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, helping them find a creative solution. So I don't know if that's a superpower in itself, like, you know, just finding creative solutions to things, but that's ultimately, that's kind of what Broadstreet is.
Yeah.
Like everything that we do is kind of one big creative solution to a problem that the publisher had.
So then how do you avoid, there's like the curse of customization, right? The curse of customization being, as a business, you've got to try to like knuckle down on, right? Like repeatable success.
Yeah.
But the creatives like you, and I'm also a creative, I'm a poet and a fiction writer. And that I exercise that every day in my job here, you know, but it also makes me prone to wandering down rabbit trails or having the next best idea, the next big idea, and keeping my staff jumping, you know, running around like chickens with their heads cut off. So we've had to apply a lot of discipline to that because it's a strength until it's not, right?
So there are two ways we deal with that. One, if somebody really wants a lot of customization, which doesn't make sense, we give them a really big price and then pray that they walk away from it.
Yes.
That's one way to solve it. And a lot of companies will do that. But the better way to solve it is that the customization mainly happens on the ad format side. And we have a very streamlined approach to customizing things. So we're not building out like new parts of the platform or writing new code. The way we do things is actually, it's very like when it comes to ad formats, like that thing that pulls from Facebook, we have like a toolkit that is used to compose the things that so it's like we've taken what would otherwise be a very custom one-off process and turned it into a streamlined, standardized process. We've taken something which would normally be one-off and we've kind of standardized components of it so we can do it very quickly and it becomes kind of standardized.
Totally. Right. So it seems custom, but it's standardized on your end.
Right.
Repeatable on your end.
Right. And I would say only maybe like 10% of our customers require something custom from us.
Yeah.
90% are happy with the base product. In fact, the base product probably includes more things that they're probably going to use anyway.
Yeah.
But I've been told by some publishers that it might even be an idea to pare down on some of the things that we offer. And I understand that side of it too.
Why? Because there are complications for the publisher? I mean, is it?
Yeah, it's more like a lot of times a publisher have their own processes, and like if it was possible, so we have like 120 different ad formats that you can use.
Yeah.
A publisher will say like, it would be great, like one publisher, and I don't agree with this extreme that he exists on, but he said, what if you only had 3 amazing ad formats? It was almost like, and I'm like, I understand your thinking there, but that's like you have like one perspective, right?
Yeah.
And there are publishers all over this country where like some of the ad formats that he thinks are unnecessary and he despises, the publisher in Batavia, New York will love another ad format that the other one finds repulsive. Like,
yeah,
it's really different around the country. And I think he has one perspective and just, but I do also understand the spirit of what he's saying.
Right. So, yeah. Simplify, double down on your best work. All that.
I think, yeah. And I think and I'm sure you have, I've read a lot of business books and like, things that talk about that, like,
yeah,
kind of like you're saying, like double down on the customer persona that fits you the best.
Yeah.
Which is why you're going after the newspapers now.
So tell me your favorite book real quick. Can be business or personal or both. Can
I give you 2?
Yeah, give me 2, please.
Yeah. One is The Zen and Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
I've heard of that.
Good one.
Yeah. That was actually one of my favorites for a long time. More recently, and it touches on some Buddhist themes, but is it's actually less about motorcycles than the title implies, which was good for me because I didn't really care that much about motorcycles.
Yeah.
And then the more recent one that I read was called The Power of Now. That one, it like kind of reframed my thinking about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And that's not a business book, but a lot of it kind of like all kind of applies anyway. I'm sure almost anything you read, I'm sure you're the type also I watch Breaking Bad and I'm applying like Walter White's, rise to be a meth kingpin to like running Broadstreet. I'm sure you do the same thing,
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's for me, our most influential book, mine, Jake, you might agree, is Good to Great.
Yeah.
Jim Collins.
But see that what I loved about that is he really did try to kind of disassemble and analyze excellence was what he was really trying to do, right? Like, I want to see what creates sustained excellence. And he used, public companies to illustrate that, but the principles apply far, far beyond business, right? So like, I use those principles in my personal pursuit of excellence in life, apart from business.
Yeah.
And so that goes exactly the other way. Business to personal, personal to business, right? It's all, you're trying to find frameworks for living.
Yeah. What's your favorite non-business book?
Let's see. Favorite or most influential? Because I'm going to probably have to give 2.
Oh, yeah. Both.
Bible's my number 1. Man, I've just pulled so much practical meat out of that thing, and just continue to do so. And then besides that, I'm gonna probably have to say 9 Princes in Amber, which is kind of an obscure book. It's a sci-fi fantasy book. Yeah. But it's a whole series. It's a 5-book series, and it is killer. Like, the writing is killer. And I'm a writer. I love to write and I love to create. And I stand in awe of the world building and the creative expression. And there are moments in that book that it almost turns to poetry. Like, it's fiction, but it just, not even through the structure of how it's written, but the language he's using, he just goes like straight into these huge kind of poetic monologues. And the language is so beautiful, it just takes your breath away. So
it's called Nine Princes in Amber. 9
Princes in Amber. Yeah. So the guy that wrote it, Roger Zelazny, actually won the highest sci-fi fantasy award, which I believe is the Hugo. the same year that Dune won the Hugo. So they tied.
Mm-hmm.
But then Dune, right? Like everybody knows about Dune, you know, movies and whatever, but nobody knows about Nine Princes and Amber. But that book got huge accolades. So,
yeah. It's sometimes it just works out that way.
It does.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do also, I think there's probably a ton in the Bible that I haven't, but I did start an end-to-end reading of it. And as you know, it's a long book. So there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yes.
But there's I'm very much into that kind of like meditative, like kind of, higher level approach to things. Is the way I could describe it. But it's a really good book.
I was looking at there's a book called Think Like a Monk. Have you heard of that one?
No, I have a book called Think Like a Roman Emperor, which is also one of my favorites. It sounds like they may be polar opposites, but I have a feeling they're not actually.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. But when you said The Power of Now, I know a lot of I forget the author of that book, but he was a Buddhist monk. No. I don't know what his name is. But he talks a lot about, staying in the now and those kinds of things. Philosophically, there's a lot of that underpinning within that book.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of I feel like there's a ton of commonality in Christianity too, because my parents raised me like a hardcore Catholic, and I kind of fell away from it as I got older. Because there's so much human bullshit that comes along with organized religion, and I really wanted to get back to a more fundamental place. And but I've noticed that there are a lot of similar underpinnings, like you were saying, between different Eastern religions and Christianity, and that's what I was really interested in. Get back to these ideas that people had been talking about for thousands and thousands of years, and removing all of the human cruft that kind of comes along with it,
Yeah, man, I think that's a worthy pursuit for sure. But yeah, definitely meditate, this guy, the book that Think Like a Monk, I didn't read the whole thing, but as far as I got, before I had to take it back to the library, he was talking about, the value of eliminating noise and how essential that is for human health and thriving, the elimination of noise. Well, yeah, that is also very much a Christian practice, right? You have monks and monasteries that were, gathered together around the idea of quiet and reflection and order and orderly existence, right? And so you definitely, and those things, evolved in two completely separate, areas of the world with nothing to do with each other. But that principle holds true, right? Every morning for me, I've got my dog and I'm walking at 4:30 in the morning. I'm out in my neighborhood walking around. I walk miles and the goal is I've got to get quiet. I can't do this day if I'm not quiet in my heart, in my soul.
Right.
There's too much responsibility. There's too much that I carry for me to be able to face it without just me and God in silence. I've got to have it. Not
That's
baby.
So funny. I do the same thing every morning. Actually, every morning, every night, I probably put in a couple miles, and it's just a walk. Walking is truly one of my favorite activities.
I'm with you. Hey, high five! Come on, meet me right there.
People don't give it it doesn't sound exciting, so I guess people don't do it. But they don't give it that's a timeless activity right there.
And I haven't found anything that can help me get quieter than walking. I just, even standing still, sitting still, laying down, a lot of times you're just tempted to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Especially if you're tired.
I think that's kind of an interesting point, in that sometimes achieving that meditative state is, for me, easier through walking, which involves some repetition, than just sitting in one place and doing nothing.
Yep. You work with Lauren over in Toronto, Lauren London, and for his online directory, he's using ad slots to funnel in social. I thought that was really compelling. Are you doing that for other people, or was that just kind of a moment of creative inspiration?
That was a creative solution, but we do that. Like, we have it built as something. There were a few components coming together. Obviously, you can imagine that there was a component that involves that thing that pulls from Facebook involved. But yeah, no, we can do that in pretty much any case. But yeah, we had done it for Lauren, and there's probably like 5 or 6 other people we had done it for in CRMA or something similar. But it wasn't like one of the things that we put on our website and say, this is what we do, you know?
I have an online directory tool that is probably the leading edge. That's the thing that it completed the circle for me, because, you know, I do these nominations. I go do top lawyers, top dentists, top doctors, top realtors, all these different categories, right? But in doing that, I'm not just getting the top doctors. I have to go and get all the doctors, and then I have to get all the doctors to vote for each other, and then I can, you know, section out the winners. But I end up with massive databases in these different professional categories. Once we created an online directory tool that was tied into that same platform that I used to do the nominations, it means I can flip a switch and I can give somebody a robust, elegant online directory with not a whole lot of setup time.
Right.
So that is kind of the thing that's getting the most interest right now. Now, I know you know David Walsh?
Yeah, I know David Walsh.
So we do a lot with David Walsh, and we actually partner with him and provide our directory in some of his integrations.
Okay, cool.
That he does. So I know that what you did for Lorne, you did using his the Web Publisher Pro.
Right.
You were adjacent to the Web Publisher Pro iteration of directory. Yeah,
because our ad code was already on Toronto.com, I think it was easy for us to be like, oh, is Web Publisher Pro installed? And then do the social media injection.
Yeah. So what would it take if I wanted you to do something like that for one of my clients? And we're subdomain driven, right? So my platform looks like this. Let me show you. PhoenixMag.com. Are you seeing this?
Yep.
Here's their top doctors. And then here's what the directory looks like. Now, if I wanted to do something like in the profile, you know, you see we're bringing in ads right here.
Yeah.
What would be the mechanics of getting something like what you did for Post City to happen in a listing like this?
We could probably do it as is right here. So basically all we need to do is we get 2 lines of code in there. And then I think the way Web Publisher Pro did it is that there were inputs on the back end for entering the Twitter username, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
And we read those and then dynamically injected the content.
Beautiful.
So basically, as long as those URLs were on the page somewhere, whether they were hidden or displayed, then we could just grab those and then use that as the information we needed to go get the updates. That
would be sick. Okay. All right. So I may come knocking about that at some point. You know, because I saw what you did for Lauren, and it was mouthwatering.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because they don't have to do anything to populate the directory. It's like they kind of get a default page right there if they want it. But yeah, we I forget why we did it or how that came about, but it was just one of those like custom, creative solutions.
Yeah.
Now it can be repeated pretty quickly.
That sounds good. So basically, I know enough. I mean, if I get anybody asking me about ad server or ad manager, then I'll just start kind of feeding people your way. I mean, referral is probably the lowest hanging fruit of working together. But I also think you and I have similar DNA for our companies. So partnership is our culture, and then our core principles are creativity, passion, dependability, and humility. right? And so everything we do is intended to encompass those characteristics for the purpose of being a good partner, right? Being an excellent partner. So, you know, and I hear a lot of those elements in how you do business.
Oh yeah, no, we have core values, optimism, persistence, and intellectual honesty. Those are, you know, kind of like literally the things we talk about, we hire for. Everything is oriented around, you know, those items. So yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, we should definitely do a part 2, because I think that there are probably other ways that we could potentially work together. Broadstreet, actually, we did a business directory years ago, and I got immediately out of the business directory business because I'm like, we're good at ad serving and we're never doing this again.
Yeah.
But we have some things that complement business directories pretty well.
Yes.
But I'd also be probably, I mean, that's almost secondary to, I'd be more interested to learn about your background too. How in the world you got into the world, you know, into lists. And I know friends who'd be like, you do ads. So I don't know if your version of that is lists. Because I'm like, ads, we do so much more. But no, I'd really like to learn about your background, and then you know, maybe continue to see where we could build on some items here. So part 2, I'd be looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I love what you said, because a lot of what you were saying early in the conversation about your origin story, and then you coming to that clarified sense of purpose that you're going to help publishers impress their advertisers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the goal of this directory is to enable doctors to tell their story, right? Like that's what this is. Like it's the client, so to speak, or the primary driver is this guy right here, Leif Bergsagel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want Leif to be able to tell his story in a way that delights him. Mm-hmm. And if I do that, if I'm effective at allowing Leif Bergsagel to tell his story in a way that delights him, then the directory can't help but be successful. Right. And because yes, it needs to be user friendly. Users are important. Yes, like the regular listees who are not upgraded are important, right? But the star is the person who really wants to tell their story and wants to pay to do that,
mm-hmm.
to tell their story in an elegant way. So that would be the creative problem to solve, right? Or anything that you could contribute to that high purpose or that kind of overarching principle,
mm-hmm.
Is delight the advertiser, but truly in the form of allowing them to tell their story. Because these doctors, they're people. They're people too. Lawyers, people. Dentists, they're people.
Right. We also specialize in, so it's not, telling the story is incredibly important, but getting people to the place where they're telling their story, that's the other thing that we focus on.
Oh, it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like how do we help get people to his directory page?
Yeah.
So, you know, because we have a lot of people who use our ad server, our ad manager, they say, well, I sold these directory listings, but they're getting like 2 hits a month, you know, so how do I get people to this guy's page, or like either sell them a package or make it part of the directory package? So then we can help start driving traffic to that. And then all of a sudden, you know, we track a lot of things. And when it comes to the reporting on it, usually we can track the performance of like how many people went to the page, where did they come from, what were their zip codes. Sometimes those are really exciting stats. Sometimes you don't want, you know, depending on the stats. But yeah, we focus on driving people to that page too. So that's something else that we should discuss.
So literally the two guiding principles in this, I just wrote this the other day. Mm-hmm. 2 guiding principles on the directory are storytelling, right? Ability for the advertiser to tell their story, and then connection, right? Which has to do with connecting the audience with the advertiser, or connecting the audience with the doctors, so that the doctors have more people to tell the story to. So those are the 2, like number 1 and number 2, and you just hit on both in 5 seconds flat. And you're saying you can help with both of those things.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But you're not an SEO shop. So how does that work?
So we do it through the thing that we're good at, which is display advertising, right? So you're on the publisher's website, you're on a story page, maybe unrelated to the doctor.
Yeah.
But how do we surface that doctor in a context where maybe the reader, they could be presented to the reader, right?
Yeah.
So we do that in a few different ways. Publishers will use our ad tech to promote an individual directory listing, or maybe like, I think if you go to, if you want to see like a more,
I really do. Yeah.
a nonverbal example, go to localprofile.com and just like click into a story. They're based in Texas, I think.
Let's go fair. Okay.
All right. And if you scroll down on the right, so they have this like top local realtors unit, right?
Yeah.
And so this is like a Broadstreet unit, and the content can be sourced from like, it could be manual, they could insert those manually, or it could be like a feed coming in from somewhere. So if like your directory published like an RSS feed or something like that, or a JSON thing that we could consume, we can include that. And then if you scroll up a little bit, there are many different forms of this exact feed. Some people use it for directory listings, but other people will use it to surface if they write advertorials or sponsor content. It can link internally or externally. So there are a lot of different ways.
This is Broadstreet. This is you.
Yeah.
This is sick. This means widgets for the publisher's site that are linking back, not getting in the building of building stinking widgets, because we don't want to be building widgets.
Right. Well, and there's a lot of stuff, because then eventually people will say like, oh, well, can you shuffle them? Can you wait one advertiser in the widget? They start asking all these features that you just to say no for, that we just do.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, and then we could build basically one of these widgets that consumes directly from your directory.
Yeah.
So that way, like, they want to create this thing in 7 different sizes and run it around their site, and then it drives people back to that doctor's story.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. So,
dude, I love it.
Is this just embeddable HTML or JavaScript?
Yep. Yeah, it can run like a normal ad unit. So basically any way or behavior that Google Ad Manager or an ad manager that you guys are familiar with might drop them into the page.
Yeah.
You do it that way, but at the core of it, it is just one snippet of HTML.
I love it. So you're leveraging iframes in this case.
What is this one? I think this one could be an iframe. Yeah, it's JavaScript and iframe. And then if you like on mobile, this will collapse to like a 300 by 600. So it is smart about like the 728 by 90 version will automatically become a 300 by 250. So it's smart about, mobile devices and things like that.
I'll look and see if I've got opportunities to send people your way. I'll just do it because I can. Again, for me, it's about partnership and synergy and sending people to people that I know will take care of them.
Yeah.
And I know you got a good reputation. The reason I reached out to you is because I'd heard from you from a couple different people with people that I trust with positive feedback, and randomly it was random. I wasn't even out there looking for it. So
yeah, that's really good to hear. Thanks for letting me know.
You have a level of clarity about who you are and what you're doing that is rare. I will tell you. I ask a lot of people a lot of penetrating questions. You know, and you had answers because you've obviously thought about it.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think about shit all day, and really diving into my own reasons for doing anything is one of my pastimes. So glad we connected on that level.
Yeah, man, it really.
Yeah. So at some point, yeah, for part 2, I want to, you can be in the chair, and I'll ask some questions, and I think I already got a good sense of where your head's at and everything, and like I said, it seems like we have a lot in common, but I'd like to learn more about like how you guys got to starting your business, like first customers, the things that get you excited, to like why you do what you do. That's kind of, it's really interesting to me too. So I'd love to hear about that. Yeah, man. Okay. Well, we'll do that. And I'll just save I have this urge to just start answering, but I'm going to save that for part 2. We'll schedule part 2, and then you can open up the Pandora's box if you dare. All right, that sounds awesome. All right, cool. Well, I'll talk to Deanna on my side, and then we'll schedule a time and take it from there. Right? Sounds good, my man. I appreciate you, and thanks for sharing yourself with us. Absolutely, Johnny, Jake, take care. Right.
Take care.
All right, later, guys.